Hey guys, welcome to the 10th episode of Women's Wrestling Focus, brought to you by SEScoops and hosted by me, Ella J of a Wrestling Gal podcast. Now today, we are coming off a spectacular weekend in professional wrestling, coming off of not one, but two amazing pay-per-views with Impact's annual Slammiversary pay-per-view and WWE's Money in the Bank. But the one we are going to specifically be focusing on today is Impact's Slammiversary that not only opened the door, but unhinged and busted down the door, the forbidden door in women's professional wrestling, bringing in two outside names into the Impact Zone. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. Now, Impact definitely brought a boatload of surprises in time for their 17th annual Slammiversary pay-per-view from this past Saturday. We saw Chelsea Green make her return, we saw Jay White, we saw No Way Jose, we saw the formerly known as Aiden English. We saw so many stars make their debuts and returns at Impact's Slammiversary pay-per-view, but the two that we are going to be specifically focusing on revolve around the Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo and her match as she defended her Knockouts championship at Slammiversary against a mystery opponent. And leading up to this, Deonna Purrazzo is in the midst of her second reign as Knockouts champion, and collectively, at the time of recording this, she has been champion for over 340 days collectively between two reigns, and she has absolutely demolished this Knockouts division, defeating likes of Taya Valkyrie, Jordynne Grace, Su Yung, Rosemary, Havoc, Taylor Wilde, ODB, Jazz, basically everybody in the entire Knockouts division. And so Impact had to bring in the big guns from outside of Impact for this special pay-per-view. Deonna has been begging and insisting on bringing in new competition to the Impact Zone, and her wish was granted as Impact Slammiversary unveiled the mystery opponent for Deonna Purrazzo as none other than former NWA Women's Champion Thunder Rosa. And this one was huge in and of itself because this really marked the beginning of NWA and Impact really crossing over and opening that forbidden door. Now, this was not Thunder Rosa's first time opening that forbidden door, as obviously she has made multiple appearances in AEW All Elite Wrestling, especially notably in a Lights Out match against Britt Baker, and she has been consistently on AEW Dark, Dynamite, and Elevation. And so Thunder Rosa is definitely no stranger to passing through this forbidden door, as they say in professional wrestling, and neither is Serena Deeb, as obviously she is another former NWA Women's Champion. She is also crossed over into AEW, but specifically for this occasion, Thunder Rosa is still technically under NWA contract, and so this really is the beginning of maybe a partnership between NWA and Impact Wrestling, and this moment was super huge. You have two of the most over and respected women in professional wrestling today, two of the top performers, Thunder Rosa and the Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo, who is at the top of her game right now. She's been so dominant, and so Thunder Rosa really was a perfect mystery opponent for her, and to do it in front of a crowd was so special. Obviously, there was a lot of back and forth in this matchup. Deonna had her moments of weakness, but she ultimately overcame Thunder Rosa to roll up for the 1, 2, 3. And while Deonna was basking in her glory, as she says, as the reigning and defending Knockouts champion, we also got another surprise from the NWA. Another representative, or should I say executive producer? And former Knockout, I should say, Mickie James. She is a former 3-time Knockouts champion as well, as Deonna was attempting to celebrate after defeating the amazing Thunder Rosa. What hits? Hardcore country. Mickie James. Out comes Mickie James, inviting Deonna Purrazzo to NWA's upcoming Empower pay-per-view. Now, before we get even to what unfolded, this This was such a great surprise and a shock to a lot of people. It had kind of been anticipated and teased on Impact over the last few months, as obviously as Mickie James was released from WWE back in April. A couple weeks later, Impact did unveil a teaser for this Slammiversary pay-per-view, showing the likes of Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, and Mickie James, and we had seen Mickie James teased on Impact Television with her name written on a trash bag in a Fire and Flava segment a few weeks ago, and so people were really anticipating this pay-per-view. We're like, are we going to see a formerly released WWE talent? And Mickie James once again entered the Impact Zone, extending a personal invitation to Deonna Purrazzo to be a part of NWA's upcoming Empower pay-per-view slated for next month on August 28th. And now Deonna has been vying for competition outside of Impact, some new competition, some new talent, new generations. And so this was really the perfect opportunity for her. But Deonna really wasn't having it, interrupting her moment of glory after defeating Thunder Rosa and retaining her Knockouts Championship once again. And so she tells Mickie James to take her trash bag and get the hell out of here. But Mickie James wasn't having it. So Mickie James slapped her, kicked her, and Deonna went up the ramp. And so Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo had this amazing moment in the ring, and much like Thunder Rosa, this again was busting through this forbidden door and really opens up this stream of endless possibilities. Deonna has not formally accepted Mickie James's invitation to Empower, but one should assume she should, right? I think everybody has really been wanting some answers to who is going to be on this NWA Empower card. And so this looks like the start of a beautiful and enticing feud between Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo. And so should Deonna accept, the question really is, will it be against Mickie James? Mickie has stated that she will not be competing at NWA's Empower card, but she does still have a mystery opponent looming for NWA 73. So even if Deonna maybe doesn't face Mickie James at Empower, there still is that enticing and intriguing possibility for NWA 73. But maybe that's just me fantasy booking in my head this match that I have been wanting for so long now between James and Purrazzo. But this encounter, again, really marked the start of this crossover, this forbidden crossover that we really don't see too many times, especially in women's wrestling. Now you have NWA and Impact crossing over, two of the top promotions in the world. And obviously, as NWA looks to expand their roster and lock in this card for their Empower pay-per-view next month, bringing in the Knockouts champion like Deonna Purrazzo is absolutely huge. The roster on NWA is already fantastic, but thinking about potential matchups to who she could be possibly facing at Empower is really, really cool to think about. And so these moments at Impact Slammiversary with Thunder Rosa and then Mickie James appearing, this really seems like the start of something so magical, and I can't wait to see it play out before our eyes as, again, they not only knocked on this forbidden door, but they knocked the damn thing down. And so I am so proud of the women in today's professional wrestling for always evolving and revolutionizing the game. And so this is really the start of maybe other potential crossovers. Maybe AEW, maybe Ring of Honor. NWA still does have to book up their cards. So if I were a betting woman, I don't think it would be too far off to say that maybe we could be seeing some other crossovers as NWA leads up to their Empower pay-per-view. Maybe AEW, maybe Ring of Honor. I'm willing to bet at least one of those promotions is going to be scoring some talent on NWA's Empower card. But then again, we'll see. At the time of recording, nothing else has been officially announced, but Impact and NWA have now started sowing the seeds for this potential feud and possible match leading up at Empower. And so it'll be really cool to see. But this past weekend at Slammiversary was really the beginning of the amount of endless possibilities between NWA and Impact, this crossover, and I think really opened the door even more. Obviously, between Impact and AEW already have an existing relationship, but maybe now that we're seeing Impact and NWA, maybe we'll be getting AEW and NWA. Who knows? But this forbidden door is unhinged, all at Slammiversary. And I am so excited to see what happens next. Deonna Purrazzo is definitely not done. As Deonna Purrazzo says, long may she reign, but don't count out former 3-time Knockouts champion Mickie James, a bona fide legend in the wrestling game. I think Mickie has definitely got some tricks up her sleeve too to maybe persuade Deonna to join the card. But then again, we'll see. I definitely can foresee Mickie James and maybe Gail Kim playing a part in this upcoming storyline that will likely play out on Impact on Access TV leading up to the pay-per-view. We still do have about 5.5 weeks to go, so there's a lot of time to still build everything. But this moment, again, it was so cool. It was frankly so cool to see play out live, and it's just really maybe indicative of things to come and really gives us hope and energy, and maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel to see some more forbidden crossovers. And so I think this really opened the door and really knocked it down to an endless supply of possibilities. And who knows? Maybe we can be seeing some AEW or Ring of Honor stars at NWA Empower. We'll have to see, though. Nothing's been officially announced yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a few familiar faces pop up at this Empower pay-per-view, whether it's in a championship match, whether it's for the NWA Women's Invitational, or maybe it's for the newly revitalized NWA Women's Tag Team Championships. Who knows? There's an endless sea of possibilities and so many amazing talents that I think both sides would benefit from being at NWA's Empower. But for now, we will see how Impact and NWA plan to capitalize on this newfound partnership. And who knows, hopefully it extends past Empower, because I think both sides could benefit from it. And it's definitely something that women's wrestling fans are really gravitating towards. I know I am. And so I think both sides benefit from it. And women's wrestling fans are loving it. I'm loving it. And so I guess all there's really left to say is we'll see what's to come. I'm super excited. It's really the mystery and like all the anticipation that's really fueling this fire and fueling this potential feud. And maybe it'll lead up to Mickie James versus Deonna Purrazzo at some point. That's a dream matchup of mine, and I think a lot of other people's. And so we'll see what happens. And so that about concludes this week's edition of Women's Wrestling Focus, episode 10 already. Again, even before I recap everything, thank you so much to everybody again who has been here since the beginning. I can't believe we're on episode 10 already. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to know, if you were to book Deonna Purrazzo right now at NWA Empower, who would you book as her opponent? Would it be already a pre-existing NWA women's superstar, or would it maybe be an independent star, or maybe another person from Impact? I want to know, if you were to book Deonna Purrazzo today at NWA Empower, who would you book as her opponent? I obviously know mine. I want to see Mickie James versus Deonna Purrazzo, but we'll see how it plays out. Nothing has been confirmed so far, but I know Impact definitely has to have some tricks up their sleeve on not only on their television, but likely NWA tapings as well. But this past weekend at Slammiversary was so cool with all the surprises. We got to see Chelsea Green back in the Impact Zone too, teaming with Matt Cardona against Tennille Dashwood and Caleb. And we also had No Way Jose. We had Jay White. There was so many amazing moments in this pay-per-view, but the Knockouts Championship being defended against Thunder Rosa and then Mickie James following up afterward was such a special moment and really, really groundbreaking, and really, again, pushing through the barriers and the glass ceiling that women's wrestling has really, really had to hold down and try to bust through over the last few years and decades as well. But that was really a history-making moment, or herstory-making, you could say, moment in my eyes. And so gives me a lot of hope for the future of women's wrestling, that we can continue to evolve and maybe see that forbidden door be busted down permanently and see some more crossovers. Maybe, again, AEW and NWA. Maybe NWA and Ring of Honor. We'll see. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. This is Ella J signing off on the 10th edition of Women's Wrestling Focus.